How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and to celebrate the release of Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, I figured it'd be a good time to give you my beginner tips and tricks for this game. The things that are going to help you get through the game and have the best experience possible. That's what we're shooting for. So, we're going to jump straight into it, so like the video, subscribe for future content, make sure you check out the review that I did of Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, and again, a massive thank you to Square Enix for giving me an early review copy of the game to check out. But let's get on with it. Now, the very first thing that I'd suggest is to start the game on normal difficulty. Now, there is the classic mode difficulty, which is the original balancing from the game back in 1993. It's got that same level of difficulty to it, and you will be able to get through it, don't get me wrong. I played on the classic difficulty for like the first 6 hours or so, and I managed to get through it, but it slowed me down a lot. So if you want to have a nice smooth experience with your first playthrough and you're not particularly bothered about massive amounts of difficulty, then I think normal is the way to go. You can change it on the fly, so if you find that normal is too easy for you, you can crank the difficulty up to classic, and you'll see what I mean. But I would recommend that you begin the game on normal difficulty. That's the first tip. In Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, you have something called LP, life points, and these go down each time you are knocked unconscious in combat. So when your character goes down to 0 HP and drops to the ground, it will lose 1 life point. Once it has 0 life points left, that character is dead, permanently. So the next tip is to keep an eye on your life points and try not to let characters go down. It's really easy to just pop a character back up. Any healing spell will revive a character who's unconscious. So it's really easy to pop him back up, and it becomes very tempting to, oh, I'll let that guy go down and just pop him back up. I would recommend against that if you're trying to keep a party composition together, and it can be pretty rough if you're in the middle of a dungeon and one of your team just goes down permanently. And it can be even worse if you're in the middle of a dungeon and your main character, your Emperor, goes down permanently. So keep an eye on your life points, and keep an eye out for things that can boost your life points. There aren't many of them. There's definitely a limited amount of them in the game, so you don't want to let your character's life points dwindle away to nothing, but keep an eye out for anima potions. They will give you 1 LP back and can be very useful in keeping a character and bringing them back from the brink. In Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, skills and abilities level up from being used. At the end of each combat encounter, any abilities that you've used, their respective skill will go up. So say if you use greatsword attacks or combat, at the end of the fight, your greatsword level will go up potentially. Same with magic. If you use fire magic, if you use any specific school of magic, that level will go up at the end of combat. There are 8 different weapon types, and there are 6 different schools of magic, so you want to make sure that you've got a nice spread of them across your characters, and make sure that you are leveling them up. This will make these skills stronger in combat, and also seemingly helps with what skills you're able to glimmer. The higher your level is, the more likely you'll be able to glimmer. Formations in this game are very important. You can set up your team in a way so that all of the damage goes on the front man, or in a way that all of your attackers are on the front line and get a boost to melee damage. There are a variety of different formations. You can unlock these by interacting with different characters, selecting a different character as your Emperor, so maybe you were a fighter previously, choose a mage next time and you might get something different. You can get things by unlocking different factions to help you out along the way, of which there are several, and these give you access to additional recruits like the Thief, which in turn can give you access to a new formation. Just keep an eye on the formations that you have. One that I've found very useful is the Imperial Cross, but it's a very basic formation. There are a lot more that become available as you go through the game, so make sure you're experimenting with them. In combat, you will occasionally see that one of your skills has got this light bulb icon next to it, and what that means is that this skill is close to opening up a new skill. And the more that you use this skill in combat, the more likely you become to learn a new skill. So it definitely makes sense to focus on these abilities in combat, just so that you give yourself more of a chance of learning new things. The same thing happens with magic, but you don't seem to get the light bulb icon next to the spell. When you learn a new spell, you have a chance of it happening at the end of combat rather than during combat. So you'll get to the end of combat, and your character will have a chance of learning a new spell. It goes back to tip number 3 really, make sure that you're using a variety of techniques, use your spells, use your magic, don't be too scared about MP, there are ways that you can recover MP, and normally before any boss fight, you've got a save point with an MP recovery fountain next to it. So you'll be fine using your skills that cost MP, as long as you don't go absolutely crazy. Now, one of the big mechanics in Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven is the inheritance system, and this is where you have to select a new leader, be it an emperor or an empress, and when you do, they will inherit the previous emperor or empress's abilities. They will get their weapon levels and things like that. You'll be able to go to the training hall in the palace and you'll be able to learn any abilities that you previously had. You'll also be able to learn any other abilities that you've got stored from your other characters. So as you learn abilities, they become available for you at the training hall, the same place where you can learn new formations as well. So this is a very important room to come to any time that you choose a new emperor or empress. And then once you've set up your party, relearned your skills, got yourself in a formation, you can go back out and try again. Because one of the ways that this will happen is if your chosen leader falls in combat permanently. And this will happen. Do not be scared of inheritance. Don't get too massively attached to one leader, because there's every chance that you'll drop and you'll have to select a new one. There are even time skips in the game where it forces you to choose a new leader because you've gone forwards X amount of years. So I think the main point I'm making here is don't be scared of inheritance. It is a big part of the game. It is something you will do multiple times on this playthrough. And you can even choose to abdicate the throne and pick a new leader if you want to. Don't get too locked into one emperor, and remember that you can always pick up the skills, pick up the formations, and re-gear your character, and tweak things so that you can get over any hurdle that blocks your way. This may seem like an obvious one for an RPG, but make sure that you are exploring everywhere, because there are a lot of things that you can find. There are encounters that you can find, there are sneaky little pathways to gain access to speaking to certain people that you can find, there are obviously chests and items, and some of the items that you can find are essential for crafting, which is something we'll come to soon. Some of them are anima potions, like mentioned earlier, that'll give you LP back, so make sure that you're hunting and finding all of these things. And on top of that, there are these shrines that you can find, and they hold within them a memory of the Seven. And these are going to be essential in giving you some backstory into what went on with the 7 heroes, why the story is where it is now, and once you find them all, potentially even learn a secret about the world. Now, these are all things that people don't want to miss, so make sure you are exploring everywhere. In Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, you will spend a fair amount of money investing in your town, building facilities that are going to be useful to you, and all round helping Avalon grow through the ages. And this can be quite a costly investment, but it is something that I highly recommend that you focus on. Getting the smithy and the incantations lab up and running nice and early, give you access to gear that you can craft that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find, and it gives you access to spell research and the ability to learn spells so that you can customize your characters into the build that you want. You can give your party plenty of versatility and usefulness in combat outside of the weapons that they've got, and there are many more facilities that you can build as you go through the game. These are just the first 2 examples of it, so I highly recommend stockpile your money as much as you can and make sure that when the opportunity arises, you are ready to invest and you can just buy these things outright. Any improvement that you build takes time to be built, so it'll either be a number of combat encounters that you go through, so if you spend the money and then go into a dungeon, there's a reasonable chance that you'll come out of that dungeon and be, if not done, at least close to done with the improvements that you've built. Another way to get access to them is to proceed forwards to the next generation. Any kind of time skip will complete any building that's going on. So if you end up finishing a main story beat and time progresses forwards, then when you take over and you select your new emperor, you will have new facilities to make use of. Definitely make sure you're investing. As you're going through the game, you will see this little weird yellow guy with one eye, Mr. S. Make sure that you're keeping an eye out for him. Anytime you see him, run over, interact with him. He fills up a stamp card for you, basically. And every 5, I believe it is, you get a reward. Some sort of item, some sort of money. You get some sort of reward out of it. And the reward increases with the more Mr. S's you find. There are 50 of them altogether. Most of them seem like they're in pretty easy to spot locations, but I'll guarantee that some of them are going to be tucked away and hidden. So keep an eye out for Mr. S. And it goes back to make sure you explore everywhere. Make sure that you're exploring everywhere and finding all of these things, because the rewards that you get from them will make your life easier. And finally, possibly the biggest tip out of all of these, is to explore your options when completing quests. And I am going to give you a spoiler example of one of these for this tip. It's one that happens very early in the game, but it is something that you'll want to keep in mind going forwards throughout the game. So we have a mission to go and clear out the Canal Fortress, which has been infested by monsters and enemy troops. One of the 7 heroes has sent their people there, and they're causing trouble, they're running amok. And there are a few different options for how to go about this quest. The first of them is to just turn up, go through the front door, brute force your way through it, kill everything. Seems like the easy way to go. Seems like something I might go for a lot of the time, I'll be honest with you. But there are easier ways to do this, and there are more beneficial ways to do this. The easier way is you can go and spend money in the tavern and you can pay one of the villagers to give you access to get into the fortress. When you get in there, you will meet a decent number of encounters because it's not been cleared out or anything for you, but you'll get in without having to brute force your way through the entrance, so it will save you some time. Another option, however, is to get some help. And this begins by investigating the thieves that have been prowling the streets of Avalon. You'll speak to the townspeople, you'll get a few clues, and then you'll go and wait until the evening because you find out that they only really prowl the streets in the evening. Once it becomes evening, you can go outside, head over to the item shop near the main gate, and go through the fireplace there, up a ladder and onto the rooftops. And this also comes back to the whole make sure you're exploring everywhere, so that you find these little passages like this. There are more than you would think. But anyway, once you get onto the rooftops, you'll find a net up to a window. You climb up and you bump into Cat. Now Cat is from the Thieves Guild. If you follow this thread and the next day head to the tavern and ask about the kitten, you'll be directed to the cemetery, where you'll then be directed into a passage and into the Thieves Guild headquarters. They refuse to help initially, but they say that if you can clear out a monster in the sewers below Avalon, then they'll help. Go in, kill the monster, come back out, and then you get a third option to complete the quest we were talking about earlier, where the thief that we met earlier goes to the Canal Fortress, clears it out, and marks a pathway for us so that we can get through nice and easy. And going forwards from then, you are able to recruit that class. The point I'm making here is to look at the options that you have when you're completing a quest. Go and speak to all of the available people that you can. The game will put the options in front of you, even if it maybe does it in a roundabout way. Like, the game puts this thing with thieves in the city of Avalon in front of you as a side thing, and by completing it, you make the main quest easier. Pay attention to what they ask you to do, pay attention to what they say to you, and as long as you do everything right, you should open up some options, be it helping a current quest, a new class to use in the future, a new facility that you can get. There are a lot of possibilities. Just make sure that you look at all of your options. And that's it for my beginner tips for Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. I'm hoping that these pretty basic general beginner tips will give everybody a bit of guidance. I am going to do a slightly more advanced tips and tricks things that'll probably be slightly more spoilery. I didn't want to go too heavily spoilery with this one, that's why only the last one was really a big spoiler. But yeah, keep an eye out in the future because there will be additional videos on maybe some more advanced tips for the game. But that's going to be the end of this one, so leave your thoughts in the comments below. Have you bought the game? Are you enjoying the game? Have you had fun with it? Like the video, subscribe for future content, but more importantly than all of that, have a great day.